Hey guys, as you can tell, I am not home. I'm actually in Bangkok, Thailand. I surprised my dad for his birthday. It was like the most emotional birthday ever, and I'm gonna spend the whole day here in Bangkok with my parents before flying back to San Francisco. But I didn't want to leave you without a video, so I invited Anastasia, our teacher, to teach you a little bit of IELTS. She actually took this English language test and scored 9 out of 9. She's been helping students for over 10 years get their best scores on the IELTS exam, and today she's gonna share her best tips. And I will be back from Bangkok very soon. Please welcome Anastasia.
If you've been preparing for the IELTS test for a while, you've probably noticed that certain words keep popping up in the reading passages and lectures. Some of them may already be familiar to you, while others may be totally new. I spend a lot of time helping students with IELTS reading and listening in my one-on-one sessions, and I've started compiling a list of these words. It's a pretty long list, and I keep adding to it. I often share parts of this list with my students, and learning these words does make a difference to their reading and listening scores. So today, I've decided to share 32 words from this list with you. I actually made a similar video for our IELTS prep channel. So if you finished this one and still want to learn more words, feel free to check that out. Now, let's dive into the 32 words you're likely to come across on the IELTS test. Let's get started. As you watch, take a piece of paper and make 2 columns. In one, put a plus for the words you already know. In the other, put a minus and write down the words you don't know. At the end of the video, write winner in the comments if you know all the words or share how many you recognized. Like 25 out of 32 or 29 out of 32. This way, you'll be more engaged with the content and remember the words much better. 1. Pioneer. A pioneer is someone who's among the first to try something new or explore uncharted territory. Think of the pioneers of space travel. They really paved the way for future astronauts. You might also consider entrepreneurs who start new businesses or adventurers who explore unknown lands.
Welcome to Pioneer Village.
On IELTS, you'll often see this word in topics related to innovation or exploration. The verb to pioneer means to be the first to open or prepare something. For example, Steve Jobs is often considered a pioneer in the technology industry.
The great pioneer of early filmmaking died during...
The next word is hazardous. Hazardous describes something that's dangerous or risky. For instance, working in a mine can be hazardous. What else can be hazardous? Waste materials, weather conditions like storms or floods, chemicals, radiation, or driving at night.
It's a hazardous.
I suppose your journey's to be hazardous at times.
Next is the verb to allocate. To allocate is to distribute resources or tasks to different people or purposes. We can allocate money, budget, funds, or resources. For example, the collocation allocate resources comes up a lot on the IELTS test. You might say a sentence like, governments should allocate more resources to education to improve literacy rates. You can also use this word in your writing task too. For example, it's important to allocate resources to renewable energy to combat climate change.
Prepared to allocate 10 billion.
They're on allocation from the factory.
Our fourth word is decline, which means to decrease in size, amount, or quality. You'll see this word come up a lot on the IELTS test, especially when discussing trends or statistics in writing task 1. Fuel prices have declined over the years. You'll also see it a lot in the reading and listening sections. Just look at how many times it appears in a short paragraph from the IELTS reading text. Harbor seals declined by about 85%. Sea lion populations declined by 36%. And northern fur seals declined about 35%. There is also a noun, decline, which is when something becomes less in quantity, importance, or quality. For example, an industrial decline or a decline in popularity.
I declined.
Sir, I am honoured by your proposal, but I regret that I must decline it.
5. Feasible. Feasible means something that is possible to do easily or conveniently. For example, implementing a 4-day work week could be feasible for many companies. Another example is, it seems feasible to reduce carbon emissions with current technologies. Things can be financially feasible, politically feasible, or technically feasible. So remember, if something is feasible, you can do it without too much difficulty.
I mean, it's feasible. Do.
If it's feasible.
Well, he's my uncle.
Are not feasible targets.
6. Exploit. To exploit means to use something in a way that helps you. For example, to exploit resources. It can also mean to use someone or something unfairly for your own advantage. For example, some companies exploit cheap labor to maximize their profits.
It exploits men by exploiting women.
They exploit me, I exploit you.
Exploitive publicity.
Next is efficient. Efficient means being effective without wasting time or effort. For example, using public transportation is often more efficient than driving alone. There is also the adverb efficiently, which means working quickly and effectively.
Your efficiency hearing isn't very efficient.
It wasn't working as efficiently as we'd hoped.
8. Diversify. To diversify is to make something varied or different. For example, it's important for investors to diversify their portfolios to minimize risk. We can diversify our assets, income sources, crop production, and more. This word is often used when discussing business strategies. For example, companies need to diversify their products to meet changing consumer demands. However, you can also see this word in many other contexts.
I'd like to diversify, but I'm doing great, I think, as a start.
And I'm diversifying into hallucinogenic honey.
And I wouldn't mind diversifying my portfolio.
9. Database. Now, a database is a structured set of data that can be easily accessed. A library database helps you find books quickly. You can see this word in texts about technology or research. For example, scientists rely on large databases to analyze genetic information.
We're running his DNA through the usual databases.
In a few minutes, they're gone from every database on Earth.
Word number 10 is sustainable. When something is sustainable, it can continue over a period of time. We can use sustainable when talking about the environment. In this context, it's something that can be maintained over time without harming the environment. For example, sustainable farming practices help preserve land. You can also find texts about sustainable growth, agriculture, farming, or development.
I've made us a farm, a viable, sustainable, working...
It's our sense of humor that sustained us as a people for 3,000 years.
11. Scarcity. Scarcity refers to a situation in which something is not easy to find. If there is a cupcake scarcity in your kitchen, there are hardly any cupcakes around, and you're not sure that any will appear soon. On IELTS, you may read about water scarcity, natural resource scarcity, or food scarcity. Scarcity of natural resources often leads to international conflict.
The scarcity makes people crazy.
Nothing can breed violence like scarcity.
Hey, I'm creating scarcity. Drives the prices up.
Next is the verb to incorporate. To incorporate means to include something as part of a whole. You should incorporate feedback into your work to make it better. We can incorporate technology, features, ideas, techniques, styles, and many other things. For example, the design incorporates very specific symbolic features.
You incorporate the Duke's artistic idea.
And we need to incorporate these features into your design so that you can...
Great, because I have ideas on how we can incorporate your thumb.
13. Ban. To officially stop something from being done. Many countries ban smoking in public places for health reasons. The city decided to ban smoking in all public parks to promote a healthier environment. You can also use this word in your essays. For example, suppose you're discussing whether cars should be allowed in the city center. You could write, many argue that the city should ban cars in the downtown area to reduce pollution and traffic congestion.
Is that so?
Yes, you're banned. Banned! Get out!
I'm banned!
You're banned.
Stop you laughing! You're all banned! Banned, I tell you!
Such a lonely day should be banned.
Someone's dealing banned weight loss drugs.
We can lift the ban on imported cheese.
14. Commitment. Commitment is another word you'll see quite often in the reading passages. It means being willing to give your time and energy to a job, an activity, or something that you believe in. For example, your commitment to volunteer work shows your dedication to helping others.
I'm not asking you to give my commitment issues a corner office.
Freaking out about commitment is the one thing you can do, the one thing, and you can't even do that right.
I tell people how to avoid commitment.
Next is exacerbate. To exacerbate means to make a problem worse. For example, ignoring mental health issues can exacerbate feelings of isolation. Lack of resources can exacerbate poverty in the developing world.
It's exacerbating my asthma.
Alcohol tends to exacerbate an underlying personality disorder.
That would exacerbate the problem.
Word number 16 is occasionally. It's used when something happens sometimes, but not often. For example, I occasionally treat myself to a nice meal out. Or, people occasionally change their minds after considering new information.
She said she was occasionally prescient.
And occasionally that occasional cigarette.
17. Conservation. Conservation is the protection and preservation of natural resources. For example, conservation efforts help protect endangered species. There are different types of conservation: wildlife conservation, energy conservation, forest conservation, water conservation, and many others. Now, conservationists are people who work to protect the environment and help keep animals and plants safe. For example, according to conservationists, populations of butterfly species have been declining.
And the conservation of water has become our gravest problem.
Conserve electricity.
It means to reuse things to conserve our natural resources.
Next on our list is infrastructure. Infrastructure refers to the basic systems and services that support a society, such as roads and bridges. Good infrastructure is essential for economic development. So in writing task 2, you might write something like this: investing in infrastructure can create jobs and economic growth.
We have infrastructure costs.
The infrastructure, Jerry, it's crumbling.
Your infrastructure is primitive.
Someone has targeted my key infrastructure.
Word number 19 is emerge. It means to appear or become visible. For example, new ideas often emerge from discussions. It's a great word to use in essays when discussing new developments. For instance, new technologies continue to emerge and change how we live and work. On IELTS, you'll also see the noun emergence used in reading texts and lectures.
I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next.
The emergence of someone very dangerous, someone we couldn't predict.
Signs of a struggle indicate he's suffering from a severe, violent emergence from deep sedation.
Next is enhance. To enhance is to improve the quality, quantity, or strength of something. For example, using high-quality materials can enhance the durability of a product. This word is often used in reading and listening, but it also works well in speaking and writing. You could say, good health and financial stability are two important factors that can enhance the quality of life.
The image needs to be enhanced. Maybe we can ID them.
We can enhance them through the image processor in the ship's computer.
You're going to want to zoom in and enhance.
And enhance. Zoom in again.
To enhance your skills, test you to the limit.
Yeah, you should always drink to enhance your social skills.
If you feel overwhelmed, take a short break and review all the words we've just covered. And don't worry if you can't remember them all right away. You can use Quizlet to create study sets and go over the list daily. But the best way to learn new words is, surprise, surprise, to take reading and listening practice tests. This will expose you to the words in context, and your brain will understand that this isn't just another list to learn and forget. These words are actually important for your IELTS success. For practice tests, I highly recommend the official Cambridge Prep books. If you've already gone through all of the official prep materials, check out this AI-powered platform called Prep Haven. It has many reading and listening tests that simulate the computer-based IELTS and help you prepare effectively. It also scores your writing and gives you feedback, which is great for improving your writing skills. You can also start using those new words in your essays, which really helps solidify them in your memory. You can either focus on each section of the test separately or take full practice tests. What I love about this platform is that it tracks your progress really well. All your results are in one place, so it's easy to see how you're improving over time. I'll leave the link below. Feel free to check it out and let me know what you think. Another very common word is deteriorate. To deteriorate means to get worse over time. For example, if a building isn't maintained, it will deteriorate and may eventually collapse. On IELTS, you might see this word in passages about health or environmental conditions. An example of this could be air quality has begun to deteriorate in many urban areas.
Me,
Looks to me like a deteriorating situation, Sheriff.
Sir, conditions have deteriorated.
What about the deteriorating situation in North Korea?
As you can see, her mental health has severely deteriorated.
Next is the verb to reflect. This word has a few meanings, but the one you'll see most often on the IELTS test is to show, express, or be a sign of something. For example, her smile reflects or expresses her happiness. You'll often find this word used together with the word change, reflect change, or show change. Other common collocations are reflect differences, reflect choices, reflect goals, reflect desires, and so on. For example, the information reflects significant changes in consumer behavior.
These sketches are meant to reflect your desire to have it completely restored.
Because they reflect our different music.
I want to see a squad that reflects our community's diversity.
Our art is a reflection of our reality.
You just don't reflect our community.
Word 23 is controversial. Controversial describes something that causes disagreement or a debate. For example, climate change policies can be quite controversial. Some people argue that we need to take urgent action, while others believe that different approaches are needed. Views, theories, and decisions can also be controversial. For example, a controversial decision might cause trouble with others. A person can also have a controversial personality. A celebrity with such a personality often makes statements or takes actions that lead to heated discussions and mixed reactions from both fans and critics.
Hasn't been seen in public since his bizarre and highly controversial press conference.
They're upsetting. I'm a controversial man.
I didn't even think it was controversial.
Word number 24 is reinforce. When you reinforce something, you make it stronger. For example, when you practice a sport regularly, you reinforce your skills and get better at it over time. On IELTS, you may also come across the terms reinforcer and reinforcement. Reinforcers are rewards that strengthen good behavior. For example, giving a dog a treat when it sits on command is a reinforcer because it rewards the dog for sitting. Reinforcement often refers to influencing behavior through rewards and punishments. You've probably heard of positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is when you get something good for doing something right. For example, if a child cleans their room and their parents give them a sticker, that's positive reinforcement. It encourages them to clean their room again.
We could fix them up. We could reinforce them.
Yoda will take a battalion of clones to reinforce the Wookiees on Kashyyyk.
You decide to reinforce a sick man's delusion.
Another word is ambiguous. Look at this word carefully. Ambiguous means something that has more than one possible meaning. For example, the instructions were ambiguous and caused confusion. The accent is on the second syllable, big, which you can remember because something that is ambiguous can lead to big misunderstandings. What else can be ambiguous? Terms, contracts, results, phrases, evidence, and even sentences. For example, the results of the study are ambiguous and require further investigation.
I'm afraid that was left ambiguous.
I redid it, and now when I reread it, I find it much too ambiguous.
Being ambiguous doesn't make you profound.
26. Subsidy. A subsidy is money given by the government to help a business or organization. Farmers often receive a subsidy to support their income. The government may also give subsidies to encourage the use of renewable energy sources.
Subsidy for nuclear power?
He would retain his palaces and be paid an annual subsidy of $4 million.
27. To depict. To depict means to represent something in a picture or story. For example, the painting depicts a beautiful landscape. Things can be depicted in a true-to-life manner. There is also a noun, depiction, which means the way something is represented or shown. The verb depict is also useful for essays that analyze visuals. You can use this word in the first sentence of writing task 1. For example, the line graph depicts the changes in population over the last decade.
It's a classic depiction of good versus evil.
Do the photographs fairly and accurately depict the injuries inflicted upon you by your husband prior to his death?
Yes, they do.
28. Constrain. To constrain means to limit or control. It's a C2 word, and I personally see it quite a lot in IELTS reading passages. It's often used when discussing restrictions, policies, or limitations of any kind. For example, strict rules can constrain creativity in the workplace. In IELTS reading passages, you'll often see the word constraints. It means limitations or restrictions. Economic constraints can hinder the development of a country.
And then I was thinking about inventing a new dark matter particle to evade the omega baryon constraints, but that just seems like something anyone could come up with.
Mr. President, if you approve these new forces, constraints on domestic programs will no longer be avoidable.
We've got some unique time constraints.
Another word to discuss today is inevitable. Inevitable is something that is certain to happen and cannot be avoided. For example, aging is an inevitable part of life. What else can be inevitable? Some conflicts, death, mistakes, changes, or consequences of certain actions. With climate change, some consequences are inevitable and require immediate action. In your essays, you can write that something is an inevitable part of something else. Let's say, technology has become an inevitable part of modern education, shaping the way students learn and access information.
Look, the arrival of strong artificial intelligence has been inevitable for decades.
Pain is inevitable.
Death is inevitable.
If this persists, changes will be inevitable.
30. Adverse. Adverse means negative, harmful, or likely to cause problems. For example, drinking too many sugary drinks can have adverse effects, negative effects on your health. The most common collocations with adverse are adverse effects, adverse consequences, and adverse impact on something.
He's extremely reliable and he knows what to do in adverse situations.
Had an adverse reaction.
Normally, as you know, I try to stay away from the pills because of the adverse side effects, especially the paranoid delusions.
I swear to you, Quincy, that stealing all of your money was in no way whatsoever an adverse comment on your talents as a man.
Next is deplete. It means to use up or reduce the amount of something. For example, overfishing can deplete fish populations. This means that overfishing can reduce the amount of fish. Natural resources, energy, and supplies can also be depleted. For example, rapid urbanization can quickly deplete natural resources.
It's a depleted uranium shell.
Depleted strength through them.
Carrying me will slow you all down, just enough to deplete everyone's oxygen.
The last word for today is diverse. Simply put, diverse means different or varied. But if we dig deeper, it means including many different types of people or things. What can be diverse? In IELTS reading passages, you may come across the following collocations: diverse problems, diverse populations, diverse ecosystems, culturally diverse, many different cultures in one place. For example, a culturally diverse school has students from many different backgrounds. Or, diverse ecosystems like coral reefs have many different kinds of fish and other organisms.
Well, the supplication then has a long and diverse path.
We have many diverse, delicious dishes, and wow, that was a lot of alliteration.
I mean, that's the problem. It's too diverse.
Who was this Leonard Zelig that seemed to create such diverse impressions everywhere?
These are the 32 words you'll definitely need to tackle the IELTS reading and listening sections. And as you probably already noticed, many of them can also be used in your writing and speaking responses. Thanks for watching! Let me know in the comments if you found this lesson helpful and if you'd like to see more vocabulary videos in the near future. Also, please share how many words you knew and which ones were new to you. I also encourage you to do a few reading and listening tests on Prep Haven after watching this video. I'm sure you'll come across many of the words you've learned, and it's so satisfying. Thanks again for your attention and time. As always, remember that getting a high score on the IELTS is not an impossible feat. You can do it. Bye!